Welcome to Storytelling. This week's guest is the founder and vision behind SheIsMe Global, a movement committed to reshaping leadership for women through grounded truth, healing and legacy building. What began with women bravely sharing their stories became the heart of SheIsMe, proving that storytelling is not just connection, but the spark of transformation and community. Her work bridges personal transformation and global impact, empowering women to stop waiting for permission and to rise into their power. Please welcome Lisa Jimenez. Hello, Lisa, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Debbie. It's nice to be here.
Lisa, your story is one of resilience, transformation, and empowerment. But before we dive into the incredible work you're doing today, I'd love to begin at the very start of your journey. What were some of the earliest experiences that shaped how you saw yourself and the world around you?
Well, I grew up in a very patriarchal, dominated environment. I grew up with a Mexican father, and he was king. He was king, and everything and everyone bowed down to the king. And you did what he wanted all the time. And you held your breath if you didn't. And it was just one of those experiences that shaped really who I am today, because I want to tear down that whole idea that men are everything and we are nothing. We grow up with that idea that we have to honor and obey and walk on eggshells and be who they want us to be and dress how they want us to be. Even from when I was a little kid, I remember my mom saying, "Oh, don't go outside in those clothes. Your dad will get mad if you get dirty." And it was just always, Dad's going to get mad if you do something. And I think that's just something that now I'm trying to teach women to unlearn that and listen to themselves and listen to what they want and how they want to live. And you can see it in our civilization, what's happening with this male loneliness thing, where they're like, oh, wait, they're not listening to us anymore. What's happening? Women are awful. No, we are tired of being told what to do all the time. So I think earliest growing up in that male dominated patriarchal and sometimes religious upbringing really shaped me, where I'm not so much against it. I mean, you could do whatever you want, but I really know that is not the way forward.
And what was the turning point when you knew the cycle had to break with you?
I grew up in a house where there was violence and there was alcoholism and addiction and a lot of narcissism, just a lot of really crazy things, and not knowing any better, thinking that was completely normal, and not knowing it wasn't until much later when I started talking about it, and people would look at me with their mouths dropped open and thinking, what happened? I went straight into a marriage that reflected that, and was married for 17 years, 2 kids, to someone who, again, was an alcoholic, drug addict, and not at first. It was one of those coercive control situations where they come and love bomb you, and you're like, wow, nobody's ever thought of me like this before. And then it progresses, right? It gets progressively worse. And it ended with attempted murder. I escaped and started to heal and decided I wanted to tell my story. So that was really the turning point where I said no more. And it took a little while for me to get there. I mean, there were times when we separated and I knew I didn't want it anymore. But then, you think, oh, the kids need their dad and they need this family unit and all of these things that we're taught to believe that we need and why we need to stay in these marriages. And so I was really good at convincing myself of all of those things that I had been taught, and I stayed, and it almost killed me. So once I got out of that, I started volunteering at shelters, took my kids with me, and I started talking about what had happened to me and started realizing, started healing, went to therapy, read everything I could get my hands on, started talking to people and really opening up. And once I started telling my story, I realized how many other women weren't talking about what had happened to them, how many women were keeping these secrets, not only the secrets of abuse, but the secrets of what we grew up with. There's so many, right? We all keep secrets, and it's just something that we learn. We learn to keep the peace. We learn to keep the secrets. You can see it reflected in what's happening now in the US with the Epstein case, right? Like all of those girls keep those secrets or we'll hurt you. Keep those secrets. Here, we'll pay you to keep the secrets. It's always about keeping secrets. And I think secrets are poison. What happened to me was everything sort of manifested into my body. So my body shut down eventually with fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis to the point where I couldn't walk. And those are those secrets inside eating us up. So as soon as I started letting it out and talking about it, realizing, oh, that happened to me too, or that happened to me too. And that's where the she is me came in. Like, she is me, because we're the same. Those things happen to each of us. Like, that's how we relate to one another. Not only that we're women, and not only that we've experienced the same things, but we are all the same. We are all one.
You talk about that relatedness and also the experience that you learned growing up because you thought what your parents' experience was normal. And then
Yeah.
you found yourself in a similar relationship. When did you notice, or did you notice any similarities in what you were experiencing to what you experienced as a child?
Oh, I think I noticed almost right away because my instincts kicked in, right? One of the first times I remember my friends wanting to meet my ex-husband when I was first dating him, and we all got together at a restaurant. And he worked at this restaurant. It was his day off. So I thought, well, let's go to this place. He'll be comfortable there, and he's meeting all my friends for the first time. But at least he'll know people at the restaurant, and it would just be nice for him. It's not going to put him on the spot, kind of thing. He sat there the entire time. He didn't say one word, and he drank hot tea. And the man never drank, that I know of, hot tea in the 20 years I knew him, but he drank hot tea that day, and he didn't talk to my friends. And I thought, God, that is so weird. So when we got back to his house, I grabbed my stuff and I said, I think I'm going to go home. And there was this change in his face, which I knew. And I talk about it. I've written about it, about when my dad paused and took a very long drag off of his cigarette. That was sort of the switch, you kind of, that was the trigger, right? You knew that, uh-oh, run, hide. That was it. But he took this long pause. And I think that's when my instincts kicked in. And he said, if you leave now, you're never coming back. And this was like we'd only been dating maybe 2 months or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that exact moment and the feeling that I had, that I gave all my power away at that moment when I decided to stay, when I decided not to just walk out and say, whatever, like, screw you, I stayed and I gave my power away. And that was what I was used to. If dad raised his voice or threatened you or something, you said, okay, you didn't fight. You didn't fight it. You just said, okay, and you did it. There were a lot of those instances throughout the years. And I see this in what's happening now. Even after the attempted murder, my parents remained friends with this man.
Mm.
I mean, what do you do when your parents still go over to dinner at the man's house who tried to murder you? Like, how do you handle that? you know? So I see this in what's happening now with the Epstein trial, or even domestic trials, domestic violence trials, or murder trials or something, where the judge is like almost friends with the guy and goes, we don't want to ruin his life. I call it the bro code. And it's almost this unspoken thing that where they recognize this in each other, or it's just the way that they are, and they just make excuses for each other and they accept it. It's almost accepted behavior. And I don't know how we got here, but it's happening. It's heartbreaking that I see it every day and I see this behavior and I recognize it. But it did happen throughout my marriage. I was told, just listen, just behave, just don't make him mad, things like that.
So let's focus on your healing, because healing is never linear. What part of your journey surprised you the most?
I think how brave and how strong I was immediately after the crime. I almost became like ironclad, like nothing he could say, nothing he could do, no threats, no nothing. I didn't care at that point. I transformed at that moment into something like a superhero, whereas before, if he had said something or threatened me or raised his voice or looked at me in that way, I would just be like, oh no, here we go. And I would clutch at something and worry that something was going to happen. But as soon as that happened, there was a switch in me where it was like, I don't care what you say to me. I don't care what you try with me. You will not defeat me. I am not scared of you anymore.
Tell us more about the She Is Me movement and how that came about.
So how that came about was years after this happened, probably about 5 years after. I had been volunteering and I'd been talking and just sort of healing. And healing is really messy. So it's not easy. It's messy. Sometimes it's lying in bed for a week, just drinking wine. Sometimes it's going out and being wild with your friends. I mean, and the whole time, and I have kids at home and I'm trying to raise them and take care of them and heal, and they're trying to heal. And there's a lot of trauma happening. But about 5 years in, I started thinking, like, how can I help other women? How can I help other women who may have been in my situation? How can I help them be more independent? So at that point, I'd spent my whole career in technology and working on product management, marketing, things like that. So I produced an online conference for women in small business. So if you wanted to start your own business, you could come to this conference, and I had people like web developers and accountants and like all the different pieces that you might need, and learn all those pieces of like a small business summit. It flopped, but that was my first event. And I kept thinking, like, how can I help other women? How can I help other women? So I started coaching. I started a coaching program where I would help women discover where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do, and be their mentor and help them get there. And then one morning I woke up and I thought, I really need to start telling my story, because that's the only way I'm going to make an impact. And I really wanted to make a bigger impact. So I started looking all over the place for a place for me to tell my story. And there wasn't a place for me to tell my story. There were a lot of women in business and networking groups and so on and so forth, but no place for me to stand up and tell what happened to me. Mm-hmm. The only place that I thought I could was online. But if I did that online, I was opening up myself to abuse again by online trolls and people saying the most terrible things. I mean, you could just post something about a puppy and some man's going to come in and say something terrible about how you look. You know what I mean? It's not safe out there. So I decided one morning, I woke up and I kind of rolled all of these things that I tried into one. And I thought, why don't I just create the space the safe space for me to tell my story. I picked up the phone and I called a bunch of women that I knew and that I'd worked with, and women who had high professional standing and entrepreneurs and just my network. And I said, knowing what they'd gone through, whether it was they'd been widowed with 4 kids or they had a liver transplant, there are lots of stories, lots of things that we aren't talking about. I said, do you want to do this with me? And they said, yes. And so the first conference happened, and we had, I don't know, 25 to 30 women who came on in 3 days and told their stories. And that's how SheIsMe was born.
It's grown into an amazing global platform because you've brought together voices from 63 countries. Is that correct?
Correct.
What's been one of the most powerful stories shared through this platform?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many. There's a woman in the UK who thought she met her dream man, millionaire, private jet, all this other stuff, and then she ended up being trafficked by him. There was a woman who was a professor in Iraq and became the queen of the infidels and had to escape through tunnels and lots of different cars, hiding in trunks, sewn into seats, and to get out of the country so that she could escape the torture and murder that they had planned for her. Another story, a woman whose husband died in a plane crash, and she found out he had another family somewhere. There's so many stories. There's so many stories there. And you don't, to speak at SheIsMe, you don't have to necessarily have a story. You don't have to have a business. But one of the most powerful speakers that I ever had was a woman who didn't have a business at all. She just applied and said, listen, I don't have a business, but it's something I really, really want to talk about. And I said, okay. And what she talked about was after her father died, all of the secrets that they found out that were hiding in the family and all the secrets that were kept in the family. There was some incest, there was some abuse, there was another wife, there were all kinds of things. And that really was something that was profound to me because it really made me think about all of the secrets that were kept in my family and all the secrets that we keep. And oftentimes we talk about enabling people, right? As victims, when we're in this domestic violence situation, we're enabling the abuser by not speaking up. Our families are enabling it, even if they know about it, even if they haven't been told, they know, but no one says anything. So that sort of triggered me into this movement of like, we will not be quiet. We will not keep your secrets. We will no longer keep your secrets. We will no longer enable you. This year earlier, there was a website that was created called T. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it was for women to go to so that they could talk about the men they were dating or the men they were married to and warn other women, like, this guy is dangerous. It was started by a man, and the way he was validating everybody's persona was to scan their driver's licenses. And I never went on it. I just sort of heard about it after the fact. But of course, a man hacked into it and released everybody's driver's license information. So these women who were saying this man is dangerous, now her address was published publicly.
That's not good.
Yeah, not good. So that was in line with my idea. We need to talk about these things. We can't keep secrets anymore. We need to do this, but we need to have a safe space to do it. And that was a good idea, but the execution was poor. It didn't really work out. And maybe I'm jaded, but I'm like, I'm not going to go on to a website that's built by a man and give him all of my personal information. Just not going to do it. So anyway, we're in the process of building the Sanctuary, which is a sort of social media platform for women to gather. It's safe. It's built by women, for women, on technology built by women, in a women-owned company, and it's in a different country. It's not in the US, so it doesn't go under any of the US laws or scrutiny. They can't say, oh, we need to get into your database or anything like that. So we've moved it offshore. We're planning, it's taken a little bit longer than we thought, but we want to make sure that it's secure. And it's a place where you can come and tell your stories. You can come and talk about these things. You can come and share whatever it is you want to share, but it's a safe, secure place for women to come and meet online and to get off of all of these other social networks where we're constantly attacked and scrutinized and judged and all of the other things that happen out there.
What shifts do you witness when women come together in the SheIsMe space?
We feel unstoppable. I think the shift is especially when we hear other women speaking their truth, being vulnerable, cracking wide open for the first time and releasing some of this weight that they've been carrying around, some of this poison that they've been carrying around, those secrets. You almost see women grow their wings. Like, it's amazing, the transformation that happens in just being given a platform, being given some space to let it out. And just that one act changes everything. It changes your biology. It changes how you feel about yourself. It gives you almost like a jetpack of rocket fuel. It's something that you have to experience. And we do this not only on the speaking platform, but in many other ways. We teach circle facilitation, we teach retreat facilitation. So we give women opportunities in many different ways to experience this. But that realization that you are worthy because you're being witnessed by all of these other women who are there to hold you up. And it's something that so many women haven't had. They haven't had this support. We try and do things on our own. We try and be strong. We try and do things on our own. We try not to ask for help. We don't want to appear weak. We got it all together. Don't worry. I got this. I'm working, got kids, got the husband, got the house, got everything running around. My schedule is crazy. Oh, maybe I'll have 15 minutes on Sunday to take a bath. We try and do all of this and then add in if something is happening behind the scenes. There's that added pressure, or you're getting harassed at work or something like that. To have the space and have the support to be completely open, vulnerable, tell your story, let it out for the first time, and be supported by this group of women who just totally care about you and care about what happens to you in community is life-changing.
What question should every woman ask herself to begin her own journey of transformation? Because you mentioned that we're so busy living our lives in a way that we think we should be, and thinking about and caring about ourselves comes secondary.
So first and foremost, am I happy? Am I happy? And if you have to break it down, am I happy with the way my mornings go? Am I happy with what I'm eating for lunch? Am I happy with my car? Just ask yourself those things, because those things matter. Every cell in your body vibrates at a certain level. And if you're struggling and you're just trying to push through and you might notice that you're getting sick more often. You're having allergic reactions. You're having a lot of bodily issues happening, right? That is because you're not in alignment with who you truly are. And so you need to ask yourself, am I happy? Am I happy, or am I just accepting this? Or am I pushing through? That to me is first and foremost. And you can't say it's all in one encapsulated thing. Like, I'm not happy with this. I'm out of here. It's not like that, because you can make tiny changes and change your whole perspective. So is this making me feel good? Do I have habits that are ineffective in my life? If yes, then a tiny change. Maybe it's what you eat for breakfast. Maybe that oatmeal you're eating every morning is slowing you down and making you really tired by 10 o'clock, and you're just drinking coffee to wake up. Maybe change what you eat for breakfast. I mean, it's tiny little things. But I think asking yourself, am I happy? Am I happy in this? Am I happy in this? And trying to change those things so that you do bring yourself some joy. I think that's the first step.
And what final words of encouragement would you give to the audience? Someone who's had a light bulb moment and are thinking about, okay, things need to change for me.
Don't give up. And I know you hear that all the time, but just take it 1 hour at a time. Try and be where you are all the time, right now, because when you future cast and you start thinking about what could happen, what should happen, all of those things, you get sort of lost in the fog. So if you can think about what's happening right now and be in the moment and just think about what's that next step that I need to take, you will get out of whatever it is that you are in or whatever is happening to you. But also ask for help. That is the number one thing I could tell anyone, is to ask for help. Speak up, because we can't help if we don't know. If we don't know what's happening to you, we can't help you. And I guarantee if you speak up and you speak out, that there is a group of women that will help you. And if they're your closest friends, if you speak up and speak out to your closest friends and they don't, and they turn their backs on you, then those people were not your friends to begin with. And this happens when we change. Sometimes they don't come along with us. So it's important to ask for help in any situation. If it's at work, if it's at home, if you need half an hour on your own, ask someone to watch your kids so you can have a break. I mean, just asking for help is a really big step.
Lisa, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story and for being a guest on this podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
If you'd like further details about SheIsMe and about Lisa Jimenez, then please follow the links in the show notes.